I'm gonna say that's recording.
Okay, perfect.
Great, and we have a backup just in case.
Alright, which is the camera.
Yeah, which we're trying on the camera now. Hi, folks.
Hello. Is it like audio recording or video recording also?
It's doing both.
Oh, wow.
So
Who are we?
I was gonna say ghost girl. That doesn't work.
Not exactly.
Robot girl.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Ghost Boy. Good to meet you in person.
Yes.
Ish.
And this is our podcast, Tangents.
Yay!
Because we tend to go on those.
Yeah, enjoy.
A lot. Yeah. So what is today's episode topic?
Today's episode topic is going to be about queerbaiting.
Yeah, which I was introduced to this concept by you.
Oh, again
Yes.
with this.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mean to keep being your exposure to this world.
I have so many straight friends. I have so many straight cis friends that don't know anything about this world.
Okay.
So it's, I am kind of fresh on the topic, but I've got feels. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, we've done our research.
Yeah, I have actually a great video called Queerbaiting 101. It's not my video. Oh my God, sorry. It's Queerbaiting 101 by a wonderful YouTuber. Rowan Ellis, who's a lovely British woman, did a great introduction to queerbaiting. Mm. But I feel like you probably have an even better introduction.
I definitely have a basic definition.
Okay, cool.
So the definition of queerbaiting is putting two characters of the same gender, I would think, either in television, film, or otherwise media, in a relationship that is hinted at but never depicted explicitly or canonically. Really contemporary examples of this are Supernatural, between Dean and Castiel.
Oh my God.
Sherlock and John in the BBC Sherlock series by David Moffat. Fuck you, if we're allowed to swear.
Oh, Stephen Moffat.
Stephen Moffat, even worse. And I definitely smashed his name with David Tennant.
Oh, and we don't want to hurt David Tennant.
Never. And then other examples that you brought up are Hannibal. So I feel like those are three very mainstream examples.
Yeah.
Now, the reason that it's a problem to hint at a relationship but never have it reach fulfillment is because you're essentially gaining interest from queer people, profiting off of that, will they, won't they, still keeping your straight fan base complacent by not ever making it explicitly canon and not giving us representation. So you're essentially getting queer dollars, queer views, but no queer representation.
And therefore contributing to the problem of homophobia and erasure in our society.
See, you know what you're talking about.
Rowan did help me out this morning, but yes. And I will link her definition to, she just goes really hard into examples, and I also want to just link her video for the comments, because people are giving all kinds of examples in the comments, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. Which also reminded me of Hannibal, which is controversial because we're not talking about good people in Hannibal.
Yeah,
but it's still, nonetheless, I felt queer-baited.
Yeah,
personally.
There's definitely a question as to whether or not representation like that is worth it.
Yeah,
because I think it is one thing to have a straight writer put a very villainized depiction of queer people out there, because that's always been a problem of queer coding villains.
Yes, Rowan touched on that in the video as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be inherent. Mm-hmm. But on the other end, I think it would be a completely different story if a queer content creator wanted to show villains with queer villains with shades of gray or moral ambiguity or anything like that.
Right.
But for right now, I think we're in a place and time politically and in the queer community where if you are going to have a straight villain, if you're going to have a queer villain, you should probably have a queer hero.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's where my opinions on Will Graham comes in. But we can shelf that for now.
Shelving tangents.
Yes, shelving that tangent. So what do we want to first jump into? The really mainstream, do we want to do John and Sherlock?
Yeah, so as I was talking to Robot Girl earlier about, the mainstream example of Sherlock, BBC, with John and Sherlock's relationship. In the first season, almost every episode references them possibly being in a romantic relationship, whether that be an off-the-cuff joke or something like that. I know in the very first episode, they go to a restaurant together, and they have this awkward back-and-forth conversation where the other thinks they're interested in the other. I'm not sure if you remember that.
I do now. Yeah. It's all coming back to me.
John and Sherlock are trying to communicate that they enjoy one another's company and they want to, live together, but they're not interested in something romantic and gay.
Yeah.
And those jokes are made throughout the first season, the first 3 episodes. And then I think even in the second season, a lot of John's relationships are failing because they blame his relationship with Sherlock as being wholly more important and
all-consuming to a degree.
Yeah, and potentially being romantic.
Yeah.
So that... Oh, and I cannot believe I forgot to mention this. And then is it the 3rd season or 4th season where they have a fake sequence where it's Sherlock going to make out with Moriarty?
Oh, that is at the... Okay, so spoiler alert for everything, but that is at the beginning of, I believe, season 3. Because it was like a fan theory. They were doing an ode to the fans.
Except I would not call it an ode to the fans. I would call that spitting in the fans' faces, essentially mocking fan fiction
They
culture.
laughed at it, yeah.
The idea that Sherlock and Moriarty could have feelings for each other when this man is like wholly obsessed with Sherlock.
Yeah.
Like, the idea that couldn't be...
It was so Joker-Batman. I just have to throw that in there. That was such a Joker-Batman relationship where, like, Moriarty could not survive without Sherlock.
Yeah, so he died.
Is there queer? Oh my god, is there queer coding in Batman?
We're gonna get to that later.
Oh my god!
We're gonna get to that later.
I'm so excited. Okay.
Yeah, because I actually have a really good story about that.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, if you haven't heard of it, it's going to be a time. But either way, yeah, that's the example in Sherlock, and why that's particularly harmful is definitely an example is like spitting on fan fiction and seeing it as like a lowbrow form of entertainment. Not sure if you've seen any of Stephen Moffat's work, but season 4 kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, fan fiction I think is wonderful and important, and we are going to get to that later. But yeah, give me your thoughts on Sherlock queerbaiting, or we can move on to another show.
With Sherlock, that was my first experience with queerbaiting and feeling like really betrayed.
Yeah.
By showrunners and writers. Like I'm a big Doctor Who fan too, which is also a Stephen Moffat thing, and there's lots of I think there's genuine queer representation in Doctor Who, in Jack Harkness. I hope I'm saying his last name right.
You are.
He's one of my favorite characters, and he was bisexual, and that was very apparent, and and if you watch Torchwood, like I'm pretty sure he had a boyfriend in Torchwood.
Amazing.
So I love that with Jack Harkness. Anyway, but there was so much queerbaiting I thought between Jack and this is a tangent because I'm talking about Doctor Who instead of Sherlock, but it's all Stephen Moffat. But I thought there was such queerbaiting between the Doctor and Jack, and also I thought there was like poly queerbaiting between Jack, Rose, and the Doctor. But anyway, that's just a little... So I'm like, Stephen Moffat's really pissing me off. But,
and he hates women also, it's clear in his shows.
Oh, he has a strange... Yeah, he has a very strange kind of pseudo-feminist take on shit. It's very like...
Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon, yes, it's very Joss Whedon. But with John and Sherlock... When I started watching that show, and like you said, like the first season is just like, oh my god, they're going to do this. They're finally making, because it's always been a bit of a gay relationship, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It's always been, I mean, Sherlock is supposed to be asexual.
Yeah, and they just threw that out the window because why would aces ever get representation?
Yeah, that's fake news, apparently. But I mean, okay, so if you're not going to give us the ace representation, which is a huge piss off, but if you're not going to give us that, then at the very least, John and Sherlock are gay. They've always been gay. You can't tell me otherwise.
Well,
but or at
Stephen
least
Moffat.
Yeah, and at least John is at the very least, he's bi at the very least. Anyway, so I was really excited and hyped as like a older teenager that like finally I was so sure they were going to give us this relationship, and I held on to hope until John got married.
Yeah.
And I actually, won't lie, I dropped a tear.
Yeah.
I was just like, felt so betrayed and so gutted because it was so obvious. I was like, what stopped you? Like, I just couldn't understand. I was like, okay, we're now, I think the first season dropped in like, what, 2014?
Yeah.
Or something. I was like, okay, so we're, it's like post-racial America. I was like in my bubble thinking like, we're over the hump, right? Like, we're over this, like, can't represent gay characters in TV, right? And it was like, I felt like dumbfounded by... And the no homo humor.
Yes.
Really, and that's something that Rowan touched on in her video really well, and like breaking down the different kinds of queer baiting and like the no homo thing.
Yeah.
So real. It felt
like every episode of Supernatural where they're assumed to be a couple at a motel.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
Segue!
Yeah, because that is... I mean, I feel that, like, I'm actually one of the few people who I feel has stuck with Supernatural out of just comfort.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. It's a very formulaic show.
It's very
like elementary.
Exactly. Yeah, I never saw that, but...
Oh, it's much better than Sherlock now.
But yeah, the no homo humor of Sherlock, and then it was so apparent in the early seasons of Supernatural, which I will, like... That was, Supernatural aired in 2005, and so much has happened since 2005. So that was far more... I think it was almost progressive humor for 2005.
Also, very off-topic thought, but Supernatural started airing before gay marriage was legal in the States, and then after... It's just something I never really thought about.
Holy shit!
Yeah, like way, but they probably... Did gay marriage get legalized in Canada in 2005? Because that's the year they started.
Holler at us in the comments or whatever if that's wrong.
Holler at your boy. I definitely want to know if I'm wrong on that. Don't know my Canadian history that well.
Yeah, I know American history better than Canadian history.
But yeah, it started airing when gay marriage was probably just legal in Canada and not even close to being legal in America. And now it's still running, and how many gay regular characters? Oh, none? Just...
The one that they killed.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So everyone, I think, who, anybody who's clicking on this being like, ooh, I want to hear about queer baiting, and you already have some idea about it, you know about Charlie. I know you know about Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie is a beautiful, wonderful lesbian character that's introduced into Supernatural, but like every woman, she must die on that show. So why on earth would they have kept that? I think she might be having, that particular actress is coming back as, a ghost or something for an episode or something, but hey, you watch.
Yeah, like how they bring back Bobby on occasion when he's sitting in heaven, and it's like, how many times can you kill Bobby anyway?
Also, if you're wondering, we're not talking about queer baiting between Sam and Dean. Gross.
Yeah, no, let's leave Wincest in the wind.
Yeah.
Let's not.
We're specifically talking about the relationship between Castiel and Dean, which I think is worth addressing considering how often they sacrifice themselves for one another, confess their feelings for one another, constantly put themselves in danger to save one another.
Okay, can I just... Yeah, and that's good that we pointed out that we weren't talking about that, because that would have gotten dodgy. No, I don't want brothers to get together. That's weird.
Gross.
But can I just say, the gayest thing in Supernatural is that literally Cass turned his back on God for Dean. Which we know Christianity and LGBTQIA rights don't mix. How many people have had to turn their back on their religion for their relationship when queer? I'm just saying, that's the gayest thing. Why?
And it's super duper intentional on the part of the creators because they don't want to make a main character, God forbid, bi. Why would they ever do that when they can maintain...
Too confusing.
Yeah, because they just want fangirls to constantly ship themselves with the main character who are male, so... It's just really, really disappointing that they couldn't admit that this character is bi.
Which, Dean is so butch. So, like, obviously he's overcompensating a little because he has, like, a military dad. And, you know, like, I'm just, sorry, I'm writing fanfiction right now.
This is a conspiracy theory that I was not made aware of beforehand.
I'm just saying, I may have some fan fiction somewhere.
I love it. We're going to get to talking about fan fiction.
Yeah, which actually, if you want to segue into that, unless there's more thoughts.
Well, you have Hannibal.
Oh my god, I do have Hannibal.
So let's do a little touch on that.
Okay, now listen, I'm a little out of touch. Like, last time I watched Sherlock was a year ago. Last time I watched Supernatural was like 6 months ago because I finished the 12th season. And last time I watched Hannibal was actually 3 years ago. So I'm not up on everything. I do know, oh, and also The Walking Dead I might want to touch on too. But
interesting.
Because The Walking Dead has very prominent queer characters. That constantly die. But yeah, bury your gays. But no, for Hannibal, I do know that, and there's spoilers here if you haven't seen the 3rd season of Hannibal, that, I forget, I think it's Alana, is bisexual. She is in a relationship with Will. To some degree, it's kind of a complicated relationship with Will, I think, throughout season 2, and then in season 3, she ends up marrying and having a child with the sister of the villain of the guy who Hannibal makes him cut off his face. It's a very dark show. But yeah, Alana, if that is her name, I apologize if it's not. I could have done more research. I'm so sorry, folks. But yeah, she is a queer character for sure. The writer of Hannibal, Brian Fuller, also said that Hannibal is omnisexual.
Okay. Seems progressive.
Okay.
Seems progressive. But is having a murderer be queer that progressive?
Well, is that queer coding?
I don't know, because I think queer coding is meant to specifically say that you're assigning traditionally or stereotypically queer traits to a character in order to make them seem more deviant. Yeah, a prominent example of that would be Jafar.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
it's so based off of Prince. I'm sorry.
Yeah, regardless of the fact that he's being extremely predatory towards the female main character in a sexual way, he's specifically given super prominent eyeliner, very feminine mannerisms, very sleek.
He looks like Prince.
Yeah, like fashion style. Very stylish man. Yeah. And all of those are stereotypically associated with gay men, and it's meant to like have you subconsciously associate those things as deviant. Mm-hmm. I don't know if those traits are particularly put on Hannibal. So yeah, I guess I just would want to say like I don't know exactly what fits queer coding because I was under the impression it was traditional characteristics, but I don't know how quote unquote manly or stereotypically heterosexual that character is, but still meant to seem predatory and more villainous for coming on to the male protagonist.
Okay, so this is where I would say then Hannibal is not queer coded.
Okay.
And this is just an opinion. Please drag me if I am missing something here. Mm-hmm. But it's because Rowan Ellis in her video that I'm going to reference a lot because it's fresh in my mind, touched on queer coding. And she did, I think, define it just how you did of these kind of stereotypical queer characteristics put on villains to make them seem more, deviant or whatever. And I would say that there was not those, maybe I'm blind to it to a degree, I don't know, but I didn't see any glaring stereotypical things. Maybe Hannibal is a bit like well-dressed.
Oh, God forbid.
God forbid. He's also a very wealthy therapist who's like has very highbrow clients and is like, you know, maybe he is a man who's like into fine arts and that kind of thing.
Having never seen the show, I at least think that they're meant to, I don't think they have any particular like queer coding about them inherently.
Yeah.
However, they are meant to seem like there's a hyper homoerotic like tension between them.
Yeah, because I mean the story of Manhunter, the book, and you know Hannibal, the show, which it's based off of the book series Red Dragon, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you. Yay. Okay, I don't know why I'm thanking you for validating me. I guess anyway. I just love validation. I like being accidentally correct too. But Will Graham, who's our protagonist, arguably, I guess, like him and Hannibal kind of share the protagonistic role in the show. But Will is an empath. Like he's he like takes on the everything, the emotions,
the mental state,
the mental state and everything of whatever case he's working. And so there is a bit of like maybe a fact that like Hannibal's sexuality, I think like Hannibal's crimes might have a sexual connotation to them, so that might bring up like a sort of sexual feeling between the two of them, more like over the crime. It's dark again. It's really dark. I don't know if even it's inherently queer. The sexual tension between them might be more focused towards like the crimes themselves.
Even worse.
Like, even worse. Yeah.
I kind of want to throw like villains that are meant to be like reprehensible people. If they're supposed to be queer, fucking throw that in the garbage. Like, I just don't want it.
Yeah.
Like, if it's by a straight writer, I will clarify that. If the writer is not queer and is not doing a great job of depicting queer people.
Yeah.
It's hard because there is a bisexual heroine in this.
There is a bisexual heroine in this, and I wonder about Will Graham. I do wonder about Will Graham because his sexuality is something that's very guarded in that character. Which to me is kind of like, has always been an indication of a queer character because, of course, you're like in this world going to be guarded about your sexuality if you're queer because how many times has it gotten people in horrible situations and things like that, and homophobia. So, I mean, he does end up with women, so obviously, like, if anything, he's bisexual, but like, no, man, in that third season, he loves him. Like, he misses... It's like, because he has to kind of be deprogrammed because how much he takes on somebody's...
So Will is in love with
Hannibal
by the third season?
I am so sure of that. Like,
I think the hugest appeal, at least from what I heard about the show online, was that there was a hyper homoerotic tension between those two characters. Like, I think that's inherent.
Yeah, and Will is so beautiful. Like, I was in love with that character. He is so, well, he's empathetic, obviously, so he's in this way this exact opposite to Hannibal, and like, oh my god, he's just like this like gentle, wonderful person at the beginning of the series, and like you kind of see him become a victim of Hannibal and like his obsession with Hannibal, how it's like it's like this obviously very toxic, like abusive relationship that I think is totally romantic and like, but you know, these are my opinions. But like the thing is, I'm gonna spoil the end of the series, which to me I was like, oh, this is queer as hell. Like this has to be.
It ended really soon though, didn't it?
It got canceled.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Because it was so dark and it was so heavy.
Very niche.
Yeah, it was like you had to be kind of, well, like me, I guess, like sick in the mind.
No, it's fine. Okay.
But so the series ends with Will like giving up his family and chasing down Hannibal, who's like escaped from jail or whatever. There's this whole thing with the Red Dragon killer too, but I'm gonna just subvert that for now. But yeah, Will like gives up everything to go pursue Hannibal alone. Shakes the cops, I believe. I again saw this 3 years ago, so drag me if I'm wrong. But yeah, and ends up at this house where Hannibal is, and they have this like tussle, and Will thinks, well, am I gonna have to kill you? And they end up, Will kind of, I guess, feels like he's taken on too much of Hannibal to ever be normal again and ever be healthy again. Mm-hmm. Will has like become scared of himself for how much he's taken on of Hannibal, and they end up embracing at the end, all covered in each other's blood, with their foreheads pressed together so close to a very passionate kiss, and they fall off a cliff into the ocean.
Oh my god.
Together. I am so sure.
This just seems so overtly gay.
Yeah, right?
But something I would say is a better ending for that, granted I don't know the source material, but if it were me, a queer person writing it, a better ending would be Will finding like a better man
who
can help him recover from trauma.
Exactly.
As opposed to literally giving in to his abuser and committing suicide.
Yeah, I know, it's so dark. Like,
Yeah.
it's so dark. Like, it's not, I'm not saying it's good queer representation
No.
by any stretch of the imagination. And I do think because they never explicitly said that Will was queer, I don't believe, and they never explicitly said, except the writer was like, oh yeah, Hannibal's omnisexual.
Yeah, if it's that kind of afterthought, then that's not
No, yeah,
it's not explicit.
But also we don't need Hannibal's representation, as you said.
Yeah,
but,
so complex.
So that's kind of fine. But so Hannibal, I would love to hear people's thoughts on that, and also if I like remembered things correctly. But I thought it was like, it was as gay as the end of Legend of Korra.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
So it was like, and they did have an actually out queer female character who didn't die.
Yeah.
Yay!
What a change. What a luxury.
I know.
Well, okay. I will acknowledge that all of that is very complicated.
Yeah, it is quite complicated.
So, I guess getting into complications, I want to touch on like the gray area of queerbaiting, which I don't know if it can be defined. So examples, I would say, at least with like real life people, complicated because it's not fiction. It's not being written for anyone, but it might still be in like the entertainment industry. So examples, I would say, a really obvious one, for instance. So I'm sure you've seen Tom Holland around, the new Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. So he's had interviews every here and there where he gives sometimes ambiguous answers about who he would be interested in. I think he's been in a relationship with Zendaya, but when asked about like a potential partner or girlfriend, he did just say like someone as opposed to a girl. Again, I don't want to project anything on him because he's a very high up celebrity, and if he wants to talk about his sexuality in any way, that's up to him. I don't want to out him in any way.
Right.
But he never has explicitly said, I'm heterosexual. To my knowledge, he's not said that. Mm-hmm. As well as that whole fuck, marry, kill thing on the red carpet recently, if you saw that.
I didn't see that. What was that about?
So the stars of Infinity War were asked of the three Chris's, Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, who they would fuck, marry, kill. All the men in that franchise give very uncomfortable answers of like, how about hug, give a birthday cake to, and go on a trip with?
Oh,
and like, yeah, which is so silly, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Whereas Tom was asked the question and he was immediately like, oh, fuck, marry, kill. Like, he had it ready. He had it ready.
Nice.
And people were just like, ooh, subtle. Mm-hmm. I bring him up because he was doing like a burlesque style performance covering Rihanna's umbrella. And I saw accusations that was appropriating queerness. And
oh, I heard about this controversy.
I don't understand how you can, if someone's sexuality isn't explicit, are you kind of forcing them to come out of the closet to defend themselves in that regard? I would get it if someone was out there being just like, I'm straight, but I love, I don't know, playing gay men. Like, that would be one thing. I'm just like, well, a gay person should probably get that role. Give gay people gay dollars. I don't know.
Right.
But gay dollars. Sure.
Gay dollars for gay people.
But this young up and coming actor not explicitly stating his sexuality and doing something like performing burlesque,
I think everybody should be able to perform burlesque.
Yeah, I think that should be fine.
Yeah.
And then another example of that is I'm very into K-pop. I'm not going to get super into it, but there is a huge stigma in Korea that you're not only, as a celebrity, not supposed to date, at least as an idol, you're not supposed to date. There's also a huge stigma against gay people. Like, there's, I don't think there's any out queer K-pop stars. I can think of two. One of them lost their career pretty early.
No.
Yeah, but I think still performs on TV and things like that, but like does not have the like acceptance of the public. So there's a huge stigma against that. But there are still music videos being made where like cutesy like stuff is happening between people of the same gender, to the point where it might be hinted at that they could be in a relationship in videos and things like that. On the one hand, you could say it's queerbaiting because there's a company behind it and they're profiting off of like not explicitly giving representation but hinting at a queer relationship. But the people in those videos might be queer. Am I giving straight people too much room to fuck around with us? Or is it too shitty to like try and force someone to out themselves if they're just trying to give you subtle hints through media? Like, granted, they may not have control over that kind of stuff, but...
Right, okay, so I think this brings up something incredibly important. Is it queerbaiting when it's not safe for you to be explicitly queer?
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
And by safe, I'm not just talking even physically, but even like, would you lose your career?
This is very important.
Yeah, I thought it was worth talking about. Hence this.
Yeah, that is a very important thing to bring up that I have not found touched on in the little, very shallow pool of research I have done so far on queerbaiting. Maybe it is touched on more widely if I go deeper. But that, I think, is incredibly fair. Like, yeah, if in Korea there's still even more stigma there than there would be here, and they're at risk of losing everything, their career, or at risk of their physical safety, then it's more of a smoke signal, isn't it? It's like the only outlet they have. Ooh, but then that money, where is it going?
Yeah, the money is ultimately going to a company, because there are certain like things that people know that they can make money off of. Like, there's this concept called like girl crush. In K-pop, as far as I know, again, not an expert. I am a white person, so if I say anything fucked up or incorrect, please let me know. I'm sorry in advance. But
we're open to being dragged.
Of course. But as far as I know, there's this concept called girl crush, where instead of having like a traditionally cutesy or sexy concept, a girl group may do something a little more, for lack of a better term, butch or butch coded. Like, come across as like, I'm not like other girls, I'm the cool girl. And as a result, like, that may appeal to more female audiences,
right?
And I don't know. It's also hard. There's like
some internalized misogyny going on there too.
Yeah, right? There's really high up people in K-pop who probably would lose everything if they came out, but maybe trying to find, like, some are given room to make their own music with their own messages, separate from, maybe not separate from the company. The company's still getting money, but separate from the company's dictation, like, or influence.
Right. Okay. And so, in my humble opinion, I would say, that is the key right there, is it coming directly from the artist? If it is, then that's their expression, and that's them, again, maybe sending smoke signals and being able to celebrate or talk about their queerness in the only way that is safe for them to do so. But if you're looking at the song credits and it's from some mass producer of hits or whatever, I would say that's definitely still queerbaiting.
Okay, thank you. I do appreciate that. I think that's a very important point. And it's a little more gray area with people like Tom Holland, for example. Again, Tom, if you see this and you're not at all queer, sorry. I guess you're held to the standards that the rest of straight people are. If you're not straight, I'm sorry if I'm inadvertently outing you. You're just like one of examples, and maybe that's fucked up that I'm doing this. But like...
I think...
Ambiguous sexuality, at least... I think he's of a generation that he would at least accept that sexuality shouldn't be assumed for him. Like, people shouldn't assume he's straight as much as they shouldn't assume he's queer. Hope he would at least agree to that.
Yes, because straight is always the default, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, which is, we do need to shake that little bit of archaic bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also is a little bit hard when you even come to, like, trans folks, because, like, obviously there are going to be, like, majority cis actors, but I think it's important to hold casting directors to a standard that if you're going to have a trans character, they should be played by a trans person. But are we putting people in a position where they don't want to be outed? I think if someone's auditioning for a trans part, they'd probably be okay with being known as a trans person.
Yeah, and there's so many out trans actors too.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be that hard to find.
Yeah, and like talented trans actors, folks, like more talented than maybe even Eddie Redmayne.
Oh, Just maybe.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
okay. I think we've cleared up the gray area.
Okay, yeah. Also, I just want to, do you know if it was it Tom Holland or was it Andrew Garfield who wanted Spider-Man to be gay?
Andrew Garfield did want his version of Spider-Man to be bisexual.
Right.
And he even brought up the idea that Michael B. Jordan could play MJ. Which would be...
Yes.
And I will say, I'm very... If we're going to bring in the world of superheroes, we can go there. Because that's sort of where I'm leading into.
I would love to hear this.
So, examples of queerbaiting, but with, like, creators and actors trying to push against it. Yeah, Chris Evans and, Captain America and Bucky. That's a big part of the plot of the Marvel Universe. And it's pretty heavily implied that they could have a romantic relationship. And it did get to the point where Chris Evans was like, give Captain America a boyfriend. Make Captain America bisexual.
I do love, he is my favorite white cis Chris.
It's cool that, like, the actors behind these roles are trying to push back, including, like, Ryan Reynolds, who's just like, Deadpool has to be pansexual. You can't take that apart from his character.
Okay, yes, thank you, Ryan. Thank you for using your privilege, Ryan.
Yeah, still not a fan that you got married on a plantation, but...
Okay, well, they're still white cis men. What can you do?
Hold them to a much higher degree of accountability.
Much higher, let's put them in jail.
But, like, an example of people who are behind the scenes pushing for it, it still doesn't make it canon representation, but it definitely could be working towards something better, especially with Tessa Thompson, the person who played Valkyrie in the new Thor movie, who was just like, this is a
Tessa Thompson wasn't, sorry, I didn't know she was in the new Thor movie. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, her character in the comics is bisexual. Comics have a fuck ton of representation.
Isn't she herself bisexual?
I don't know. I don't think she's revealed that.
Okay.
But she has talked about how there's a scene that ended up on the cutting room floor between her and her, like, lover in that movie, and it explains why she's the last Valkyrie alive, because her lover sacrificed herself to save Valkyrie.
Wow, I need to get back in the superhero world. Oh my god.
Yeah, but that ended up on the cutting room floor because MCU...
Oh shit, right.
Yeah.
I forget that part that you mentioned.
It relies so heavily on international box offices, and people frequently use that as an excuse not to put out queer content. And, like, with Adventure Time explicitly, the creators have said that Marceline and Bubblegum are ex-girlfriends, but they don't put that out, say the words ex-girlfriends or bi or queer or gay, because they rely on, money and viewership in countries where homosexuality is illegal. So, is that an excuse? Okay. No, not when Steven Universe exists.
No, that's not an excuse, though I did totally, in my North American white privilege bubble, forget that homosexuality is actually outlawed in certain countries. Wish I could go back to forgetting that, but hey.
That's a privilege.
Yeah, that is a privilege. That's privilege as hell. But I want to pull up Black Panther, even though that has nothing to do.
No, that's MCU.
Right, I know, but just as an example of stupid, old, crusty white executives thinking that a movie will not pull in dollar because
it doesn't star a white person.
Yeah, that it's got a mostly black cast. We are in 2018. Millennials, the Gen Ys, even Gen X, and I know a lot of progressive baby boomers, but I might be an exception to a lot of other people. But we are here for all of the new people, the not actually new, but new to the public eye people. Like, we have showed up for Black Panther. We showed up for Wonder Woman, which is very slight representation. We literally just have a female lead. That's all we have. She's Israeli, but that's,
she's not white as far as I know.
Yeah.
But either way, something to point out, Wonder Woman is bi in the comics.
Of course, everyone's gay in comics.
Yeah, there's really no shying away from that, although, like, another day I do want to talk to you about, like, why is it that every femme fatale is bisexual? Is that just purely for male fantasy?
Oh, that's a good point.
But in Black Panther, there was also a scene that ended up on the cutting room floor between two female characters flirting, because there's an entire World of Wakanda comic by Roxane Gay where there's two romantic leads that are part of the the Black Panther army, like the female warriors. There's two that are in a relationship.
I mean,
that was meant to be in the movie.
Right. Oh my
and
goodness.
It got cut out.
Yeah. Oh, I did. I think I either saw that scene or like heard about that on the internet somewhere. Yeah, that irks me. I mean, they could have made like Denai Guerrera's character. I forget her character's name, but she
Latoya?
was like, was it Latoya?
No, Atoya. I think
Atoya.
it might be Atoya.
It's like Latoya Jackson. Are we throwing it to the Jacksons
No.
now?
I think it's Otoya or Okoya. I'm not. I saw this movie when it came out, but it's past that.
I
Spoiler
just
alert.
see Denai Guerrera and I'm like, oh my god, it's Denai. Like I forget her character names all the time. I'm just like, look at her, she's so great.
This
She's
episode is going to be 2 hours, and I'm so pumped.
Oh my god, yeah, what timer? Okay, yeah, so we're at 46 minutes. So before I gush all about Denai Guerrera, and I mean, I could go into The Walking Dead, but maybe we don't need to touch on The Walking Dead this episode.
Walking Dead, they do give explicit queer representation, but I think they're victim to very much what other shows fall into, which is you can introduce new characters and make them gay, but you cannot establish an already main reoccurring character as queer if everyone has assumed they're straight in the first place.
Yeah.
I think the only show that I've seen retcon things like that are Buffy for Willow. Which, why didn't you just use the word bisexual?
But so weird, but still, I love Willow.
And the only other show I've seen that done is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Where after Stephanie came out, they made Rosa bisexual as well. And that's the only time I've seen a main character that was assumed to be straight at first be established as queer later on.
How lucky are we that she's bisexual?
I mean, every day I thank the Lord.
Thank you. Thank you for being you. Don't change a thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try and find this article again and link it about how The Walking Dead has a problem with like giving the same kind of attention and story arc to their gay relationships as they do their straight relationships. There's a problem there. They don't like fully flesh out those relationships as much as they do their straight ones. And also, Daryl is like...
Ace.
He's supposed to be Ace. Yeah, because Robert Kirkman was like... Oh, yeah, well, because everybody thought Daryl was gay, which was some queer baiting a little bit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, everybody assumed that Daryl was gay. Norman Reedus was like, if that's what they want to write, I'm so down to play Daryl gay. Like, that would be...
Fan fiction, here we come.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted
But
Rick
Ace
and
is
Daryl.
also great.
Yeah, but and ultimately, I think as somebody who was absolutely, completely head over heels in love with Daryl for like the first 4 seasons or whenever The Walking Dead was tolerable, I would have to say, like, knowing that character pretty intimately, he's definitely, I would assume, to be Ace.
Okay.
He's just not interested. He's never interested. He's always alone with, like, cute women and cute men and whoever and, like, just doesn't care.
So it could be Ace Arrow.
Yeah, so, and Robert Kirkman did say, like, addressing the rumors that he was going to be a gay character, he was like... that's not something that, like, I had really thought about in writing the character. I always kind of played it off as him being asexual, mostly out of introversion, though, just being, like, because he's such an introverted character.
Yeah.
So, again, a more guarded sexuality, more ambiguous, but Robert Kirkman seems to be leaning towards Ace, and he writes the comic books, too, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, specifically talking about ace-ness representation, I'll just touch on Riverdale for a hot second.
Do it.
If you want the quickest, easiest version of queer baiting, watch the first episode of Riverdale. It has Betty and Veronica making out for sheer shock value, and then it's never touched on again about them having a relationship or feelings towards each other or being gay. Granted, I haven't watched much of it, but as far as I
Couldn't
know...
hack it.
No, as far as I know, Betty and Veronica still not queer in the show.
Jughead also missing
His asexuality,
Yep.
which even Cole Sprouse wanted to be part of that show, but throw that out the window. So yeah, that's a pretty compact, easy version of looking at...
Can we boycott Riverdale?
Who hasn't been boycotting Riverdale? I have not been watching.
I haven't been watching it all, but like so many problems with that show.
Yeah,
there's so many. Not to mention the pedophilic trigger warning. Sorry, but the pedophilic relationship between Archie and his teacher.
that is barely addressed.
Well, again, we always see that dynamic with older women and younger men. It seems to be more accepted.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not as traumatic, but it is.
every big drama that is like meant for teenagers usually has a teacher or older man with a younger woman. Gossip Girl, Friday Night Lights, I believe. Pretty Little Liars, the longest lasting relationship is between a teacher and his student.
Gross.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, anyway, but that, and then, erasing Jughead's asexuality, and then the queerbaiting with Betty and Veronica, who I'm pretty sure in the comics at some point, even though Archie's been going for fucking ever.
It's over now.
Well, yeah, but I think in like some iterations of it, I think Betty and Veronica were a couple, weren't they?
Oh, well, if so, I can't wait to read it.
I'll Google it, folks, after the fact, after I've given you false information.
Okay, so I want to move into still superhero vein, but a little bit of fan fiction and the subversion of the queerbaiting trope.
Okay, yay.
So, you mentioned earlier, is there queer baiting or queer coding in Batman? Well, I have wonderful news for you. So, have you ever heard of the Midnighter?
No, I haven't.
So, as far as I am aware, there are people out there who ship Batman and Superman.
Please. Okay, sorry. I just became one of those people.
pretty obvious. A pretty obvious couple. You know, you got essentially like day and night, which is...
I love it. Oh my God,
you've got a sun god and, you know, a vigilante that hunts by night. So there was a company or a group of people, a group of writers that were like, well, we love that idea. We love the stark contrast of their personalities and their purposes, along with the idea that they could be gay for each other. So they made a character called the Midnighter, who is like a hunt by night vigilante, and his boyfriend, fiance, eventually husband, I think, named Apollo, after the sun god, who is a sun god. If you look at the Wikipedia pages for either of these characters, it is overtly said, if not like in other sorts of introspection about those characters, that like Apollo is based on Superman, or like is a sun god. That's very literal, and that Midnighter is based on Batman. And they have those characters together as a couple. DC was like, that's a fucking great idea. And they bought it, and now they're part of the DC universe.
Yes! Thank you, comic books.
Yeah, so I think that's a very obvious way that they were like, oh, even if those characters weren't like queer-baited as in a relationship, I don't read a lot of Superman and Batman comics. It's a great way, I think, to like make it your own and give queer people representation and a voice.
And I love that they took like fan fiction seriously, because honestly, fan fiction is so much better than the source material so much of the time.
Yeah. Another example of that is there's a lot of people out there who ship Draco and Harry from Harry Potter.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and that's
so cute.
There's a book out there called Carry On that's based on that exact dynamic, but the characters get together and like build a relationship and love each other. Even though they start as like enemies. So it's like enemies to lovers. Who doesn't love that trope?
That's such a cute trope. Aww. Actually, I get super frustrated by it, but it's cute in that context. I just love the idea of like little Hogwarts, little gay Hogwarts.
Because certainly J.K. Rowling would never give us over representation.
Oh, by the way, Dumbledore's gay after like 2 years after the friggin' series finishes. Thanks for the representation, J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
And Hermione was supposed to be black 5 years after the fact. Could have mentioned that. Because it's not like she didn't mention other characters' skin color.
No.
So, could have mentioned that. And to the thing about like the hair, I'm sorry, this is personal for me because I'm a white girl with curly hair. You can't just say like, oh, well, I said she had like curly hair, so that means that she's black. No! What? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, she's just looking for ally cookies and badges of approval.
She keeps pissing me off.
I mean, it's normal.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, and then I guess the final example I have of a subversion of a queer trope is a book I really like called Proxy by Alex London. It's a dystopian fantasy, and I don't want to get too far into the plot because I guess it's pretty much all spoilers, but it's a super interesting concept, and the two main characters, well actually there's three main characters, so it is a gay boy, a straight boy, and a straight girl. The idea though is that the girl and the guy have a relationship, but that's almost never shown on the page. They technically have a relationship, a romantic relationship, but the two boys are like pretty consistently kissing, flirting,
Nice.
being close to each other to show affection. And I remember reading that book and thinking, oh my god, this is straight baiting. Like,
oh my god, lol.
This is the exact opposite of queer baiting. This gay character may not be in a relationship with this straight dude, but they love each other a lot, and that is given more quote-unquote screen time, more time on the literal page of them like showing their feelings towards one another and caring about one another and having like a fulfilling and complex relationship than the straight relationship. The straight relationship is almost never mentioned.
Nice.
So yeah, that's called Proxy by Alex London. There's a sequel that I think has a good ending for the gay character.
Oh, that's a relief.
Yeah.
A good ending for a queer character. What?
Yeah, so now I guess I just want to challenge you, like, can you think of any subversions of the queer baiting trope that you'd like want to shout out there, or like what you would want to offer?
Just for some uplifting, just to end on an uplifting note.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
Or even just fan fiction you want to shout out and be like, this is how you could do it right. Take queer people's thoughts and feelings into consideration for representation.
I actually as far as fan fiction goes, as not being a huge reader, I haven't delved into much. The fan fiction I have delved into has usually been like weird Harry Potter fan fiction that like my old friend used to send me that have made me uncomfortable.
That's fine.
But as far as like, I'll touch on the Gilmore Girls just quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know if this doesn't quite fall in line with like what you're saying, but it was something that just made me kind of happy-ish. Was if you watch the Gilmore Girls and you are like a diehard fan, as I am, Amy Sherman Palladino, who is the show creator, intended Suki to be gay, but it was just a whole thing that the network wouldn't allow, and Amy Sherman Palladino was like pissed off about that. And she also, I think, intended for Michelle, who's the desk clerk at the inn that Lorelai works at. He has all like the stereotypical trademarks of being like a flamboyant French gay man. And they never were, they never said it. I actually think in like the earlier seasons they may have even referenced him like going on a date with a woman, and it just seemed so unnatural and strange. And in the revival, okay, I'm sorry, there's so much clinking going on in the background.
We'll see what we can do in post.
We'll see what we can do in post. But anyway, I'll continue. But in the revival, if you saw the revival, they made Michelle have a husband, and they were like always holding hands and together, and I was so happy to just see that. Because to me it just represented the progression of our society, because he wasn't allowed to be gay in the early seasons of the show, and then here we are in 2017. It's like, finally, look, I know it's a small victory, but it is a victory, and it made me really happy to see. We didn't get to see Suki become gay, but that, whatever, she has lots of kids with her husband Jackson. Okay, I'll take it, even though I wish Melissa McCarthy, I wish she would be gay. I have a small crush, but whatever. It's fine.
It is. You never know. She could pull a Queen Latifah one day.
Oh, please. Please, Melissa. Anyway, but that was my little thing. And also, is Janice Ian, she was a lesbian in my mind.
For Mean Girls?
Yeah. Because they said, like, big old oh, no, but she got together with that guy in the end.
Which feels so forced. It feels as forced as giving Ryan from High School Musical a girlfriend.
Oh! Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's just an example.
Right, no.
An example of how...
Legend of Korra was the one that I was going to bring up as one where they gave us one.
Yes.
They gave us one. At the end of Legend of Korra, she got together with the hot ex-girlfriend of her ex-boyfriend, which was controversial.
Ooh.
And then they got together, and it's a kid's show, so nothing too racy, but they like held hands and looked into each other's eyes and went into the spirit world together.
Love it.
Love it, right? And then in the comic books, they are like full out gay, and I wish they could have given us a little bit more, but it was Nickelodeon, so...
Always go to the comic books. If you liked Buffy and didn't want that series to end, don't worry, it didn't. They're still making comics, and Buffy is bisexual. She dates a woman. I think she's back with Spike right now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. The only opposite sex. Is that even a term anymore that we use?
Boy, you can say boy girl.
The only boy girl relationship that I approve.
Yeah, I was gonna say heterosexual, but then I was just like, oh, that doesn't actually mean anything because she's bi.
Yeah, and so is Spike.
Yeah, Joss Whedon codes almost all of his characters as queer if they are not overtly out that way.
Yeah.
I don't know
Spike
how to
and
feel
Angel.
about that.
Spike and Angel were straight up like, oh yeah, we had a time.
Yeah, they had a hookup, which is referenced in Angel, as well as the show creators talk about how those two definitely had a lot of chemistry.
So I think we covered. I mean, we could probably talk on this subject for like 3 days.
Yes, but we won't.
Yeah. So thank you for all of your information again.
Of course, it's
like,
my pleasure.
I'm so lucky and happy to have you here. That was our episode on queerbaiting. I'm like curious to see what people have to say.
Yeah, if you have anything to say, we want to hear from you. We've probably got an email. We've definitely got the comments below if you're on YouTube. And feel free to just comment where you see fit. Nice things, hopefully. But if not nice things, we're open to criticism.
Yeah, information is a blessing and a half. Yeah, and I'm also gonna link to Riley J. Dennis's video on Legend of Korra.
I love Riley. If Riley is ever gonna watch.
And Riley is poly and gay, so I'm here for it. Yeah, I'll link to her video on Legend of Korra, and I'll link to Rowan Ellis's video on Queerbaiting 101, even though you probably don't need that by now, but just because she was a great resource.
Okay, so this has been Tangents. I am Robot. No, I keep getting it wrong.
I'm Robot Girl.
I'm Ghost Boy.
We did it! Okay, thanks for listening, folks.
Or watching.
Yeah.